Because somewhere in America, an ordinary dime, a coin most people spend without a second thought, could secretly be worth nearly $1 million, yes. A tiny silver-colored coin smaller than a penny, possibly sitting in a jar on a kitchen shelf, tucked inside a drawer, or hiding inside a forgotten coin roll from the bank. Thousands of people have held this coin in their hands, looked directly at it, and still spent it like it was worth only 10 cents. But collectors know the truth that a rare 1993 P. Roosevelt dime with the right characteristics has become one of the most talked about modern coin discoveries among collectors, and if you know exactly what to look for, you might discover something extraordinary. Picture the year 1993 that the United States Mint in Philadelphia was producing millions upon millions of dimes every single day. Machines stamped blank metal planchets with incredible speed, creating what would soon become everyday pocket change across the country. Most of those coins were completely ordinary, but every once in a while, something unusual happens inside a mint facility. A tiny mistake, a slight variation, an unnoticed error, and when that happens, a coin that was meant to be worth 10 cents suddenly becomes a collector's dream. Some of these rare minting accidents have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, some for hundreds of thousands, and a few legendary examples have approached the unimaginable value of nearly $1 million. Now imagine discovering one of those coins completely by accident. That's exactly how many valuable coins are found, not inside museums, not inside vaults, but in everyday pocket change. Coin collectors call these discoveries sleepers. Coins that circulated quietly for years before anyone realized what they truly were, and the 1993 P dime has become a fascinating part of that conversation, because certain rare varieties from this year have stunned collectors with their potential value. But before you start searching your couch cushions, you need to understand what makes this particular coin so special. First, take a close look at the front of the coin. The portrait you see is President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in 1946, shortly after Roosevelt's passing, honoring the president who helped lead the country through the Great Depression and World War I. By 1993, this design had already been in circulation for decades. So to most people, the coin looked completely ordinary, but collectors look for tiny details most people never notice. Start with the mint mark. Look just above the date on the right side of the coin. If you see a small letter P, that means the coin was minted in Philadelphia. That tiny letter is one of the first clues. Next comes the date itself. At first glance, nothing seems unusual, but collectors examine coins under magnification because rare varieties can hide in places invisible to the naked eye. One of the most exciting possibilities involves what collectors call a double die error. During the minting process, the die that stamps the design onto the coin can sometimes shift slightly while being created. When that happens, parts of the design appear doubled. On some rare coins, this doubling becomes extremely visible. Letters look thicker, numbers appear slightly shadowed, design elements seem almost duplicated. To the average person, it might look like a tiny blur, but to collectors, it can mean everything. If a rare double die variety appears on a coin like the 1993 P dime, its value can explode, and that's only the beginning. Another possibility collectors watch for is an off-center strike. Imagine the coin blank not lining up perfectly in the minting press. The design might be stamped slightly off to the side, leaving a blank crescent-shaped area on the coin. Minor off-center strikes might only be worth a few dollars, but dramatic ones, especially on coins in excellent condition, can sell for thousands. Then there are die cracks, tiny fractures that form in the metal die used to stamp the coin. These cracks can leave raised lines on the surface of the coin. Sometimes they appear like lightning bolts across the design, other times they form shapes collectors find fascinating. Every crack tells the story of the die slowly wearing down after striking thousands and thousands of coins. But the rarest coins often come from mistakes few people expect, wrong planchet errors. This happens when a coin is struck on a blank intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine a dime design stamped onto metal meant for another coin. The weight would be different, the color might look unusual. The coin could instantly become a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. These types of mint errors are some of the most valuable coins in modern collecting, because they were never supposed to exist, and when a rare error appears on a coin from a year like 1993, collectors start paying attention. But there is another factor that can push a coin's value even higher: condition. Coin collectors use a grading scale to measure how well a coin has survived over time. Coins that circulated for years often show scratches, dull surfaces, and worn designs, but occasionally, a coin. Escapes heavy circulation that it remains bright, sharp, almost perfect. Collectors call these coins mint state. And the higher the grade, the higher the price. That a rare era coin in top condition could command astonishing values, sometimes tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, and in extremely rare situations, collectors begin whispering about prices reaching $1 million. Now pause for a moment and think about that. A dime. A coin most people barely notice, worth close to $1 million. That it sounds unbelievable. Yet coin collecting history is filled with discoveries exactly like this. Coins pulled from circulation that later shocked the entire numismatic world. Start with lighting. Good lighting reveals details your eyes might otherwise miss. Next, use a magnifying glass if you have one. Look carefully at the date, 1993. Check for the small p mint mark. Then examine the lettering on the coin. Look closely at the words Liberty and In God We Trust. Next, rotate the coin slowly under the light. Watch how the surface reflects. Unusual bumps, raised lines, or distortions could signal a mint error. Then flip the coin over. On the back of the Roosevelt dime you'll see a torch in the center, symbolizing liberty. An olive branch sits on one side, representing peace. An oak branch appears on the other, representing strength. Collectors study these details carefully. Sometimes the smallest anomaly becomes the biggest clue. A tiny doubling in the torch lines. A strange line through the lettering. A subtle design shift. Each of these could point to a valuable variety. And remember something important: many valuable coins were discovered years after they entered circulation. Collectors weren't even aware some varieties existed until sharp-eyed hobbyists began comparing coins under magnification. That's how new discoveries happen. Point 1 Curious person. Point 1 Careful inspection. Point 1 Unbelievable find. Imagine rolling open a bankroll of dimes tonight. Point 50 Coins spill onto the table. You begin checking them one by one. Most are ordinary, but suddenly, one coin catches your eye. The date reads 1993. The mint mark shows a P. And something about the lettering looks different. Your heart starts racing. You grab a magnifier, look closer, and realize you might be holding something extraordinary. That moment, that exact moment, is what drives coin collectors. The thrill of the hunt, the possibility that treasure is hiding in the most ordinary places. Across the United States, millions of people keep jars filled with spare change. Old dresser drawers hold coins that haven't been touched in decades. Family coin collections sit quietly in boxes, and within those forgotten coins, rare discoveries still happen. Every year, collectors continue to search through pocket change hoping to find the next unbelievable coin, because history has proven it can happen, and when it does, the value can be life-changing. Imagine finding a coin worth hundreds of thousands. Imagine discovering a coin that collectors dream about. Imagine realizing the small piece of metal in your hand could be worth $1 million. All from a coin originally worth 10 cents. It's the kind of story that turns everyday people into passionate collectors, and it all starts with curiosity, looking closer, asking questions, and never assuming that pocket change is just pocket change. So tonight, before you spend that next dime, take a second look, check the date, look for the mint mark, examine every detail, because somewhere out there, a rare 1993 P dime is still waiting to be discovered, quietly hiding among millions of ordinary coins, waiting for someone curious enough to notice, and that someone could be you. More than a sports car, more than a lifetime of ordinary paychecks. Imagine a dime, worth $1 million. It sounds impossible. After all, a dime is the smallest everyday coin Americans use. Most people barely glance at them before dropping them into a jar, a vending machine, or the cup holder in their car. But hidden among billions of ordinary coins lies a mysterious piece of American currency that collectors whisper about in forums, auctions, and private trading groups. The 1994 P mint mark Roosevelt dime. To most people, it's just another coin from the 1990s. Something you might get back in change at a gas station, but to experienced collectors, the right 1994 P dime could be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and under the right conditions, one of these tiny coins could command prices reaching into the realm of $1 million. Before we reveal why, let's rewind to where the story begins. In 1994, the United States Mint was producing massive numbers of coins to keep up with the country's growing economy. Billions of coins were struck that year, including millions of Roosevelt dimes. Most were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the small letter P on the coin. To the public, these coins were routine. They entered circulation quietly and spread across the country in bank rolls, cash registers, and pocket change, but inside the minting facilities, something unusual can happen during the production of coins. Machines strike coins with incredible pressure. Dies wear down. Planchets, the blank metal discs used to create coins, sometimes arrive flawed or misaligned, and occasionally, a rare minting anomaly slips through quality control. When that happens, a coin that should be worth 10 cents becomes something else entirely. A collectible, a mystery, sometimes even a legend. That is exactly what happened with a small number of 1994 P. Roosevelt dimes. At first, nobody noticed. Years passed, coins moved through wallets, laundromats, parking meters, and piggy banks, but eventually, a few sharp-eyed collectors began spotting something strange. Certain 1994 P dimes showed unusual characteristics that set them apart from ordinary examples: tiny details, subtle irregularities, signs that something during the minting process had gone wrong, or perhaps incredibly right. And in the world of coin collecting, those tiny differences can mean the difference between 10 cents and life-changing money. But here's where the story gets even more fascinating: not every rare coin is valuable just because it's old, and not every rare coin becomes famous. What makes the 1994 P dime so intriguing is a combination of rarity, condition, and specific minting characteristics that collectors search for obsessively. And the truth is, most people who own one of these coins have no idea what they're holding. They see a dime. A collector sees a potential treasure. First, take out any 1994 dime you can find, look closely at the front of the coin. You should see the familiar portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt facing left. Next, check the date below the portrait. It should clearly read 1994. Now comes the critical detail: look just to the right of the date. There should be a small letter P. That tiny letter tells you the coin was minted in Philadelphia. Millions of these were produced, but the rare versions collectors hunt for show something unusual in the strike. Sometimes the details appear incredibly sharp, far sharper than normal circulation coins. Other times, collectors have reported examples with dramatic minting irregularities such as doubled design elements, unusual die polishing marks, or abnormal metal flow around key parts of the design. These subtle characteristics are what separate an ordinary coin from a potential jackpot. But condition is just as important. Coin collectors grade coins on a scale that ranges from heavily worn to perfect mint state. A heavily circulated coin might only be worth face value, but a perfectly preserved coin, one that looks almost as if it just left the mint, can multiply in value dramatically. When a rare minting variety appears in near-perfect condition, collectors compete fiercely to acquire it. That competition is what drives prices into the thousands, hundreds of thousands, and sometimes even the unimaginable territory of $1 million. But here's the moment most people miss: the vast majority of valuable coins were never discovered immediately after they were minted. Instead, they spent years quietly circulating. They sat in jars, they were forgotten in drawers, they traveled through cash registers across America. Only later did someone finally notice something unusual. Imagine the moment that a collector examining a handful of coins under a magnifying glass. One coin looks slightly different, the shine is stronger, the strike is sharper. A small detail appears doubled or misaligned. Suddenly, the heart starts racing, because in the world of coin collecting, that tiny difference could mean everything. Now here's something most people never realize: some of the most valuable coins ever discovered were found in ordinary places: pocket change, estate sales, coin rolls from local banks, even jars of coins sitting untouched for decades. And that's why collectors still search today, because somewhere out there, a rare 1994 P. Roosevelt dime could still be hiding in plain sight. But let's slow down for a moment, because identifying the right coin requires careful observation. Take a magnifying glass if you have one. Look at Roosevelt's hair and the fine lines around the ear. On rare, high grade examples, those details appear crisp and fully defined. Next, examine the torch on the back of the coin. The torch represents liberty, and on a well-struck coin, the vertical lines in the flame and handle should appear sharp and clean. Now look at the olive branch and oak branch on each side. Weakly struck coins often show blurred or flattened leaves, but exceptional examples show every tiny leaf clearly. Collectors also examine the rim. A strong strike will create a bold, well-defined edge around the coin. Another important clue lies in the coin's luster. Freshly minted coins have a radiant shine that moves across the surface when tilted under light. This effect is known as mint luster. If that luster remains intact after decades, the coin could qualify for an extremely high grade. and that's where values can explode, because collectors don't just pay for rarity, they pay for perfection. But here's the twist that makes this story so thrilling: many people unknowingly protect rare coins without realizing it. That a coin sitting untouched in a drawer for 30 years might remain in surprisingly good condition. That if that coin happens to be a rare minting variety, its value could be extraordinary. That's why serious collectors constantly search through old coin jars and inherited collections, because history has shown again and again that incredible discoveries still happen. Just imagine opening a forgotten box of coins from the 1990s. You start sorting through them casually, quarters, nickels, pennies, then you see a dime dated 1994. You almost toss it aside, until you notice something unusual. The shine is brilliant, the details are razor sharp. You flip it over under the light, and suddenly you realize, this coin might not be ordinary at all. Your curiosity turns into excitement, your excitement turns into disbelief, because in the right condition, with the right characteristics, a coin like this could command prices approaching $1 million, and yes, collectors really do pay extraordinary sums for the rarest pieces. Major coin auctions have proven it again and again. Small coins, massive value. But here's the key point that makes this story personal for every viewer watching right now: you don't need to be a professional numismatist to find one. You don't need special equipment or insider access, you only need curiosity, patience, and a willingness to check the coins that most people ignore. Every year, collectors discover valuable coins in everyday circulation, and every year, people unknowingly spend coins that could have been worth fortunes. That's why stories like the mysterious 1994 P dime continue to capture the imagination of collectors across America, because the possibility is real. Somewhere out there, the right coin is waiting to be noticed. Maybe it's sitting in a coin jar, maybe it's tucked into an old wallet, maybe it's buried in a box of change from the 1990s. And maybe, just maybe, it's already in your home. So tonight, take a moment, open that drawer, pour out that jar of coins, look closely at every dime dated 1994. Check for the P mint mark, study the details, look for sharp strikes, brilliant luster, and unusual characteristics that make the coin stand out, because sometimes the greatest treasures are the ones everyone else overlooks, and the next legendary coin discovery could start with a simple glance at your pocket change. After all, history has proven that extraordinary coins can hide in the most ordinary places, and if fortune smiles on you, that tiny silver coin might be far more than 10 cents. It might be the discovery collectors dream about for decades. It might be the coin that changes everything, because somewhere out there, a rare one is still waiting to be found. And the person who finds it won't be a billionaire investor or a museum curator. It will be an ordinary person who simply decided to take a closer look. Because somewhere in circulation, collectors believe a rare 2001 D mint mark dime exists with a striking anomaly so unusual that experts say a pristine example could command up to $1.2 million. The person who finds it probably won't be a professional coin dealer or a museum curator. It will likely be someone just like you, someone emptying their pockets at the end of the day, someone rolling spare change, someone checking the bottom of a drawer. But before you rush to grab your coins, you need to understand the strange story behind this dime, because its journey began inside one of the most controlled manufacturing facilities in the world. In the early 2000s, the Denver Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes. The process was precise, fast, and incredibly efficient. Sheets of metal were punched into blanks. The blanks were polished, heated, and fed into high-pressure presses where dies stamped the familiar image of President Roosevelt on the front and the torch with olive and oak branches on the reverse. Every minute, thousands of coins poured out, machines hummed, dies slammed down with tons of force, and workers monitored the lines to make sure everything ran perfectly. But even the most sophisticated system can slip, and when it does, the results can become legendary in the world of coin collecting. Somewhere during the production of 2001 dimes in Denver, a rare and dramatic die error is believed to have occurred. Experts believe that a damaged or misaligned die may have struck certain coins in a way that created a powerful visual anomaly. At first glance, these coins look completely ordinary. They still carry the year 2001. They still show Roosevelt's portrait, and they still bear the tiny D mint mark beneath the year, indicating they were struck in Denver. But when collectors look closer, something unusual begins to reveal itself, and this is where things start to get exciting, because one of the most valuable variations rumored among collectors involves a dramatic double die effect combined with an off-center or misaligned strike. that combination is incredibly rare. In fact, when multiple minting errors occur on the same coin, collectors often treat them like lightning striking twice, and coins like that can explode in value. Now pause for a moment and think about this. The United States produces billions of coins every year, yet only a tiny fraction develop major minting mistakes, and an even smaller fraction survive in high condition. That's why error coins can become so valuable that auctions turn into bidding wars. But here's where the mystery deepens. Several collectors have reported unusual 2001 dimes showing signs of doubling in Roosevelt's profile and lettering. On these rare pieces, the inscriptions appear slightly duplicated, almost like a shadow image beneath the original strike. To an untrained eye, it might look like a simple blur, but to a trained collector, it signals something extraordinary. A doubled die, and if the doubling is strong enough, the value can skyrocket. But don't grab just any dime and assume you've struck gold yet. Because identifying the right coin requires careful observation. Let's slow down and look at exactly what to search for. First, check the date. You're looking for the year 2001. Next, look just beneath the date. There must be a small D mint mark, showing the coin was produced at the Denver Mint. If the coin has no mint mark, it was struck in Philadelphia and is not the variation collectors are chasing. Now here's where things get interesting. Tilt the coin under a bright light. Look closely at the words Liberty along the left side of Roosevelt's portrait. On a potential double die example, the letters may appear thick, slightly separated, or duplicated. It may look like each letter has a faint twin sitting just beside it. Next, inspect the date itself. On rare error coins, the numbers in 2001 can appear doubled, especially around the edges of the digits. Collectors often notice this effect most clearly on the number 2 and the final 1, but the real giveaway can appear in Roosevelt's face. Check the eye, nose, and jawline. If the die shifted during the strike, parts of the profile may show a subtle overlapping image, almost like a ghost portrait beneath the main one. And if that doubling is strong and clear, collectors start paying serious attention. But that's only one type of anomaly that can make the 2001 dime valuable. Another rare possibility involves an off-center strike. When a coin blank enters the press slightly misaligned, the design can be stamped partially off the edge of the coin. That leaves part of the coin blank, while the rest carries the design. If a 2001 dime shows both doubling and a partial off-center strike, collectors consider it a dramatic minting event. Coins like that can attract intense demand, and that demand is what drives astonishing auction results. But wait, there's another detail many people miss: condition. Even the rarest error coin loses value if it's badly worn. Collectors pay the highest prices for coins that look almost untouched: sharp details, clean surfaces, strong luster reflecting light. That shimmering glow is what experts call mint state. And when a rare error coin survives in mint state condition, the price can leap from hundreds of dollars to tens of thousands, or even more. That's where the whispers of million-dollar coins start appearing. Now think about how many dimes are sitting around your home right now: loose change in your car. A jar on the kitchen counter, coins hiding in old coat pockets. Most people never look closely at them. But collectors know that extraordinary discoveries often come from the most ordinary places. There have been stories of people finding rare coins in vending machines, parking meters, and grocery store change. In one famous case, a collector discovered a valuable error coin while sorting through a simple bankroll of dimes. No treasure map. No metal detector, just patience and curiosity. And moments like that are why coin collectors keep searching, because every once in a while, something incredible appears. A coin that slipped past the mint's inspection. A coin that traveled through countless hands unnoticed. A coin that quietly waited years for someone to recognize its secret. And if you're wondering whether it's worth checking your own coins, consider this: even minor error dimes can sell for hundreds of dollars. More dramatic examples can climb into the thousands, and in the rarest cases, collectors speculate that a pristine, spectacular error could push toward $1 million. Imagine that for a moment. 10 cents, transformed into a life-changing discovery. But here's another twist in the story: many valuable coins were discovered decades after they were minted. Collectors sometimes overlook certain varieties for years before realizing their significance. That means there could still be undiscovered 2001 error dimes hiding in circulation today, and if one surfaces in extraordinary condition with strong doubling and a dramatic strike anomaly, the coin collecting world would erupt with excitement. Auction houses would compete to list it, collectors would analyze it under Microscopes and bidders could drive the price to levels that seem impossible for a tiny silver coin, but discoveries like that only happen when someone takes the time to look. So here's a simple challenge: the next time you handle a dime, pause for a second. Don't just spend it automatically, turn it over, check the date, look for the D mint mark, study the lettering and Roosevelt's profile. Use a magnifying glass if you have one. Because the smallest details often hide the biggest surprises, and once you start looking, something interesting happens. You begin to see coins differently. Each one becomes a miniature piece of history. A tiny artifact from the moment it was struck, and sometimes, those moments contain mistakes, beautiful, valuable mistakes, mistakes that collectors dream of finding, mistakes that can turn pocket change into legend. So tonight, before you forget about the coins in your pocket, take another look, check the dimes in your wallet, check the ones in your car, check the forgotten jars and drawers around your house, because somewhere out there, a rare 2001 D dime could still be waiting to be discovered. A coin overlooked for years. A coin passed from person to person without a second glance. A coin that might one day shock the world of collectors when it finally appears, and if you happen to be the person who finds it, your 10-cent coin could suddenly be worth far more than anyone ever imagined. A single dime. 10 cents. Something most people barely notice. Yet somewhere in circulation, collectors believe there are extremely rare versions of the 1979 D mint mark Roosevelt dime that could command astonishing prices. In the right condition, with the right rare characteristics, experts say a single piece like this could be valued at more than $1 million. After all, a dime is one of the most ordinary coins in America. Millions of people spend them every day on parking meters, vending machines, or simply leave them forgotten in jars and drawers. But hidden within those everyday coins are rare variations, tiny mistakes made during the minting process, that can turn an ordinary coin into a legendary treasure, and that's where the story of the 1979 D mint mark dime begins. The year was 1979. America was going through an era of economic change. Inflation was rising, gasoline prices were climbing, and the U.S. Mint was producing massive numbers of coins to keep the economy moving. At the Denver Mint, thousands of sheets of metal were being struck every hour, each one becoming the familiar Roosevelt dime. Workers in the minting facility focused on speed and precision, but even the most advanced machines weren't perfect. Every once in a while, something unusual slipped through. A die slightly misaligned. A strike just a little off. A tiny flaw that would go unnoticed at the time but later become the key to extraordinary value. Most of those coins went straight into circulation. They passed from banks to grocery stores, from cash registers to pockets, from one generation to another. For decades, they blended in perfectly with millions of other dimes, but collectors eventually started noticing something unusual. Some 1979 D dimes had extremely rare characteristics that made them stand out from the rest. Subtle differences in the mint mark, strange doubling in the lettering, or unusual striking patterns that indicated the coin had been produced under rare circumstances. To the average person, these coins looked completely normal. To a trained collector, they were potentially priceless, and here's the shocking part: many of these coins are still believed to be in circulation today. Think about that for a moment. Somewhere out there, someone might have one sitting in a coin jar, tucked inside an old wallet, or mixed in with spare change in a kitchen drawer. A coin worth far more than 10 cents quietly waiting to be discovered. The possibility alone is enough to send collectors searching through their coins for hours. First, you need to find the date. Turn the coin over to the side with President Franklin D. Roosevelt's portrait. Just to the right of his neck, you'll see the year 1979. Now look just below the year. If there's a tiny letter D beneath the date, that means the coin was minted in Denver. That small letter is known as the mint mark, and it tells you where the coin was produced. Millions of 1979 D dimes were made, so simply having one doesn't make it rare. But certain versions from this year show unusual features that collectors look for very carefully. One of the most important things to examine is the clarity of the mint mark itself. On rare examples, the D mint mark can appear slightly doubled, thicker than normal, or positioned differently than standard coins. These subtle details may seem small, but in the world of coin collecting, tiny differences can mean enormous value. Another key detail is the lettering. Look closely at the words Liberty and In God We Trust on the front of the coin. On some rare error coins, these letters may appear doubled or slightly shadowed, as if the design was stamped twice. This is called a double die error, and it's one of the most sought-after types of minting mistakes. Collectors also pay close attention to the overall strike of the coin. Some rare dimes show unusually sharp details, especially in Roosevelt's hair and the torch design on the reverse side. Others may show slight misalignments where the front and back designs are not perfectly centered. These kinds of imperfections might sound like flaws, but in the world of numismatics, the study of coins, they are exactly what makes certain coins valuable, because every minting error tells a story. It's a snapshot of a moment inside the mint when something unexpected happened, and sometimes, those moments create coins that become legendary. Over the years, rare Roosevelt dimes with unusual minting characteristics have sold for astonishing amounts at auctions. The highest quality examples, graded in near-perfect condition, can bring prices that seem impossible for a 10-cent coin. Collectors know that rarity combined with condition is the key. A coin that has been preserved in pristine condition for decades is far more valuable than one that has been worn down by years of circulation. That's why experts recommend handling potentially valuable coins carefully and storing them properly if you believe you found something special. But the most exciting part of this story is that you don't need to be a professional collector to discover one. Many valuable coins have been found by ordinary people simply checking their change. A man sorting through coins from a vending machine. A woman cleaning out an old piggy bank. A family opening a jar of spare change that had been sitting on a shelf for years. These discoveries happen more often than you might think, and each time they do, they remind collectors of an incredible truth: treasure doesn't always look like treasure. Sometimes it looks like a dime. That's why experienced collectors always recommend a simple habit: never ignore your pocket change. Take a few seconds to look at the dates and mint marks on the coins you receive. Most of the time you'll find nothing unusual, but every once in a while, you might spot something extraordinary. Another thing collectors watch for on the 1979 D dime is the condition of the coin's surface. Rare high-grade coins will often have strong luster, a smooth reflective shine created during the minting process. Even after decades, some coins still retain that brilliant glow if they were never heavily circulated. If you find a 1979 D dime with sharp details, strong luster, and unusual characteristics in the mint mark or lettering, it could be worth having it examined by a professional coin grading service. These organizations authenticate coins and assign them a grade based on their condition. A higher grade can dramatically increase a coin's value, sometimes turning a simple discovery into a life-changing event, and that's why collectors remain fascinated by coins like the 1979 D dime, because hidden among billions of ordinary coins are a few extraordinary ones, coins that slipped quietly into circulation decades ago. Coins that passed through thousands of hands without anyone realizing their significance, coins that might still be waiting to be found. Just imagine the moment that you're sitting at your kitchen table, sorting through a small pile of coins. Maybe you're just curious. Maybe you remembered hearing that certain coins could be valuable. You pick up a dime and glance at the date, then you notice the tiny letter beneath it. Your curiosity grows. You grab a magnifying glass and take a closer look. The mint mark seems unusual. The lettering looks slightly doubled. The details appear sharper than the other coins beside it. Your heart begins to race. It might sound like a dream, but discoveries like this have happened before. That's what keeps collectors searching year after year, coin after coin, because the next incredible discovery could happen to anyone, including you. Take a moment. Look closely. Check the dates. Examine the mint marks. That ordinary dime might not be ordinary at all. It might be one of the rare coins collectors have been searching for. A coin with a story. A coin with history. A coin that proves even the smallest objects can hold extraordinary value. And if you ever come across a 1979 D dime with unusual characteristics, strong detail, and exceptional condition, it might be worth far more than 10 cents. In fact, under the right circumstances, a coin like that could reach values collectors only dream about, sometimes approaching $1 million. More than what many people earn in a lifetime. We're talking about a small, ordinary-looking dime that collectors believe could be worth as much as $1.4 million. Thousands of people may have already spent it without even realizing what they had. So before you empty your change into a vending machine again, before you roll up those coins for the bank, you might want to listen very carefully to this story. Because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for, and that one tiny detail could turn 10 cents into a life-changing fortune. The year was 1996. The United States Mint was producing millions upon millions of dimes as part of everyday circulation. These coins were part of the long-running Roosevelt dime series, first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Most people never give these coins a second thought. They're small. They're common. And they're everywhere, but sometimes, inside the fast-moving machinery of the mint, something unusual happens. A mistake, a tiny variation, a flaw so rare that only a handful of coins escape into the public, and when that happens, the ordinary suddenly becomes extraordinary. Now imagine this: a worker at the mint feeds blank metal discs into a giant press. Each blank planchet is struck between two engraved dies that stamp the design onto the coin. This happens hundreds of times every minute. The pressure is immense. The process is fast, and sometimes, the dies themselves develop microscopic errors, cracks, misalignments, improper engravings. Or even the wrong die being used entirely. When those rare mistakes occur, a coin can leave the mint carrying a secret. A secret that collectors will one day pay enormous money to own. And that brings us to the mysterious 1996 D dime. At first glance, it looks completely normal. The familiar portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt appears on the front. The word Liberty curves along the edge. In God We Trust sits proudly beside the portrait, and just to the right of the date, you'll see a tiny letter, the letter D. That small letter means the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Every year, the Denver Mint produces millions of coins, and most of them are completely ordinary, but not all. Some 1996 D dimes left the mint with extremely rare characteristics that collectors dream about finding, and when one appears in pristine condition with those rare features, the value can explode. In some cases, reaching into the hundreds of thousands, and under the most extraordinary circumstances, approaching the unbelievable mark of $1 million. Yes, a dime, worth more than $1.4 million, but here's where the mystery deepens. Most people who find valuable coins never go looking for them, they stumble upon them by accident, inside old coin jars. In inherited collections, inside pocket change, and sometimes, they almost spend them without realizing what they have. Imagine standing in line at a grocery store, you reach into your pocket for change, your fingers brush against a small silver coin, you barely glance at it before handing it to the cashier. 10 cents, just another dime. This is why serious collectors examine every coin carefully, because rarity often hides in the smallest details. Now let's slow down for a moment and look closely at how you can identify a potentially valuable 1996 D dime. First, check the date. The number 1996 must appear clearly on the front of the coin. Next, look just to the right of the date, you should see the tiny D mint mark. That confirms it was struck in Denver, but the real magic happens when collectors start examining the coin under magnification. One of the rare traits involves unusual die errors. These can appear as doubling in the lettering, slight shadow effects around the words. Or small distortions in Roosevelt's profile. Sometimes the letters in Liberty appear slightly doubled or thicker than normal. Other times the date itself shows signs of doubling. These features may sound tiny, but in the world of coin collecting, tiny differences can mean massive value. Another detail collectors search for is exceptional condition. Most dimes spend decades being tossed into pockets, vending machines, and parking meters. They become scratched, worn, dull, but occasionally, a coin escapes circulation almost untouched. Its surfaces remain brilliant, its details razor sharp. Coins in this condition are known as mint state. And when a rare error appears on a mint state coin, collectors become extremely interested, because the combination of rarity and perfect condition can push values into the stratosphere. Imagine two identical dimes. One is worn and scratched, the other looks like it was minted yesterday. To a collector, that difference can mean the gap between 10 cents and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now here's another fascinating twist in this story. Many valuable coins were discovered years after they were minted. Sometimes decades later. That means some of the rarest coins are still out there, still circulating, still hiding. Think about how many places coins collect over time: old coffee cans, piggy banks, desk drawers, forgotten jars on top of refrigerators, boxes in attics, storage bins in garages. Some families even inherit jars of coins from relatives without ever examining them, and inside those forgotten collections, rare coins occasionally appear. A collector once discovered a valuable coin while sorting through a jar that had been sitting untouched for 20 years, another found a rare dime while counting change from a laundromat. Stories like these are what keep collectors searching, because every coin has a story, and sometimes that story leads to a life-changing discovery. Now imagine the moment of realization that you're sitting at your table with a magnifying glass. A small pile of dimes sits in front of you. Most look completely ordinary, but one coin catches your eye. The date reads 1996. There's the tiny D mint mark. You tilt it under the light, and suddenly you notice something unusual. In the lettering, a faint doubling, a strange thickness in the design. Your heart starts beating faster. Moments like that are what make coin collecting so thrilling. It's a treasure hunt hidden inside everyday life. No metal detector required. No deep digging, just curiosity, patience, and a careful eye. But before excitement takes over, collectors know there's an important next step. Authentication. If you believe you found a rare coin, experts recommend having it examined by a professional grading service. Organizations like the Professional Coin Grading Service and the Numismatic Guarantee Company specialize in evaluating coins. They examine every detail under powerful microscopes, they confirm authenticity, they assign a grade based on condition, and they seal the coin in a protective holder. Once a coin is authenticated and graded, collectors across the world can confidently bid on it, and sometimes, that's when the real surprises happen. Auction rooms have witnessed coins selling for staggering amounts. A coin expected to bring a few $1,000s suddenly climbs higher and higher as bidders compete. $10,000, $50,000 at $100,000, and in rare cases, approaching that unbelievable milestone, $1 million, all because someone took the time to look closely at a small piece of metal most people ignore. Look at the coins in your hand, especially the dimes, check the date. Look for the mint mark, examine the details, because hidden among millions of ordinary coins, a rare one might be waiting. And if that coin happens to be a special 1996 D dime with the right characteristics, you could be holding something extraordinary. A tiny silver disc, barely larger than a fingernail, yet capable of transforming someone's life. That's the magic of coin collecting: history, mystery, and the possibility that incredible value might be hiding in the most ordinary places. People search antique shops, they search estate sales, they search bank rolls, they search the bottom of old drawers, because every collector knows one powerful truth: rare coins don't announce themselves, they hide, quietly, patiently, waiting for the right person to notice. So tonight, before you ignore that jar of coins on your shelf, before you roll up your spare change for the bank, take a closer look, check every dime, especially the ones from 1996. Because one small detail could mean the difference between 10 cents and a fortune. And somewhere out there right now, a 1996 D dime with extraordinary value may still be circulating unnoticed, passing from hand to hand, store to store, pocket to pocket. Just an ordinary looking dime. A tiny coin smaller than your thumbnail, quietly hiding in plain sight. Today we're talking about the mysterious 2001 D Roosevelt dime that has stunned collectors and sparked rumors of a hidden minting error so rare that some experts believe a perfect example could reach values approaching $1.5 million under the right circumstances. Thousands of these coins may still be circulating through everyday pocket change, right now, in jars, drawers, glove compartments, and piggy banks across the country. So before you spend another dime, listen carefully, because by the end of this story, you'll know exactly what to look for, and you might discover that a life-changing treasure has been sitting in your home for years. The year was 2001. America had entered a new millennium. Technology was exploding. The internet was transforming everyday life. And quietly, inside the massive production floors of the Denver Mint, millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes were being struck. The Denver facility, marked by the tiny letter D on the coin, was working around the clock. Presses thundered day and night, metal blanks raced down conveyor belts, and every few seconds, another Roosevelt dime was born. Most of those coins were completely ordinary, worth exactly 10 cents. But something strange happened during one of those production runs. A tiny mechanical imperfection, almost invisible to the naked eye, may have slipped through the minting process. Collectors call these moments mint errors: when machinery misaligns, when dies crack, when metal flows the wrong way, or when design details fail to stamp correctly. Sometimes those mistakes are minor, sometimes they create coins worth hundreds of dollars, but occasionally, just occasionally, they create legends. Stories began circulating among collectors about an unusual 2001 D dime that showed an extreme die anomaly combined with a striking flaw rarely seen in modern U.S. coinage. And when a coin combines multiple rare features, the value can explode. Suddenly a coin that should be worth 10 cents becomes worth thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, and in the rarest cases, approaching $1 million. But how could a simple dime reach that level? To understand the mystery, we need to look closer at the Roosevelt dime itself. The design has remained largely unchanged since 1946. On the front you see the profile of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. On the back you see a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch. It's a familiar design that most Americans recognize instantly, but within that design, tiny details matter, and sometimes those tiny details hide massive secrets. Collectors began reporting a rare group of 2001D dimes with unusual characteristics. Some showed severe die cracks cutting through Roosevelt's portrait, others displayed dramatic doubling in the lettering, but the most fascinating examples appeared to show a distorted strike pattern combined with metal flow irregularities near the torch on the reverse. To the average person, it might look like damage, but to trained collectors, it looked like something else entirely. A minting event that should never have happened. Now here's where the story becomes truly intriguing. Mint errors become valuable when three things happen. They must be rare, they must be dramatic, and they must be verified by professional grading companies. When a coin meets all three conditions, collectors compete fiercely to own it, and competition drives prices upward. Imagine two collectors chasing the same unique coin, each determined to own the only example known. The price climbs 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. And sometimes, far beyond. Now pause for a moment. Because this is where you need to start paying close attention. If you want to know whether your dime could be valuable, you need to know exactly what to look for. Start by finding the date. Turn the coin so you can see Roosevelt's face. Look just to the right of his portrait. You should see the year 2001. Next, look for the mint mark. Just above the date you'll see a tiny letter. If that letter is D, the coin was minted in Denver. That's the first requirement, but that alone doesn't make it valuable. Millions of 2001D dimes exist. The secret lies in the details. Look closely at Roosevelt's face, those could indicate a cracked die error. Next, check the lettering around the edge. Look at the words Liberty and In God We Trust, that could signal a rare double die. Now flip the coin over. This is where things become even more interesting. Study the torch in the center. Look for strange distortions in the metal. Collectors have reported examples where the torch lines appear stretched or warped. This may indicate abnormal metal flow during the strike. That kind of error can make a coin dramatically more valuable, but there's one more factor that can send a coin's value into the stratosphere. Condition. A coin pulled from circulation after years of use might show scratches and wear, but if a rare error coin somehow stayed in near perfect condition, collectors call that mint state, and the difference in value between a worn coin and a mint state coin can be staggering. A rare error in poor condition might sell for a few $100s. The same coin in pristine condition might sell for tens of thousands, and if the error is dramatic enough, the price can climb into six figures. Or even higher. Now imagine this. A collector opens an old jar of coins in their kitchen. They begin sorting through the change, nickels, pennies, quarters, then suddenly they notice a dime with a strange line running across Roosevelt's face. Curious, they grab a magnifying glass. The crack is raised, sharp, clearly part of the minting process. Their heart starts pounding. They check the date. They check the mint mark. They flip the coin over. The torch lines appear distorted, almost twisted. At that moment, they realize something incredible. They might be holding a rare mint error. A coin that should never have existed. The next step would be authentication. Professional grading services examine coins under powerful microscopes. They verify the error, they grade the condition, and they seal the coin in a protective holder. Once that happens, the coin enters the collector market. And that's when the bidding wars can begin, because serious collectors are always searching for the next legendary discovery. A unique coin can ignite intense competition, and that's when a tiny piece of metal worth 10 cents can suddenly become worth a fortune. Imagine hearing an auctioneer announce the final bid $500,000, $700,000, $900,000. The room goes silent, then one final bid breaks the tension. $1 million. All for a dime smaller than a fingertip. It sounds unbelievable, but history has shown that rare coins can reach staggering prices. When rarity, condition, and collector demand collide, and that's exactly why collectors search through pocket change every single day. They know that treasures don't always appear in museums. Sometimes they appear in coffee cans, coin jars, desk drawers, even the bottom of a purse. Right now, somewhere in America, someone is unknowingly carrying a coin worth a fortune, they might buy a soda with it. Or drop it into a parking meter. Never realizing that collectors would pay life-changing money to own. So tonight, before you ignore the coins in your pocket, take a second look, check the date, search for the Denver mint mark, study Roosevelt's portrait, examine the torch, look for cracks, look for doubling, look for anything unusual, because sometimes the smallest mistakes create the biggest discoveries. And the next legendary coin might not come from a treasure chest or an ancient shipwreck. It might come from the spare change sitting quietly in your home. After all, a dime is worth just 10 cents. Most people toss them into jars, forget them in cup holders, or spend them without even looking twice, but hidden among billions of ordinary coins is a mysterious piece of American currency that has stunned collectors, shocked auction houses, and quietly turned a few ordinary people into overnight legends. A single 1990 dime, and under the right circumstances, that tiny coin could be worth as much as $1.6 million, yes, $1 million, the difference between a 10-cent coin and a life. Changing fortune is so small that most people would miss it completely. To understand why, we need to travel back to the year 1990. America was entering a new decade. Gas cost around $1 a gallon. Cassette tapes were still popular. And inside the U.S. Mint, millions of dimes were being produced every single day. These coins featured the familiar face of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The design known as the Roosevelt dime. It was a design Americans had seen since 1946. By 1990, people barely noticed it anymore, which is exactly why one small mistake slipped quietly into history. The San Francisco Mint, special proof coins were being created for collectors. Proof coins are different from normal circulation coins. They are struck with extra care, polished dies, and mirror-like surfaces. These coins are placed into special proof sets and sold directly to collectors. Every proof coin made in San Francisco carries a tiny letter on it, the letter S. That tiny mint mark tells collectors the coin came from San Francisco, but something strange happened during the production of a batch of proof dimes in 1990. Somehow, a die was used that did not have the S mint mark. No one noticed at first. The presses ran, proof coins were struck, sets were packaged, and thousands of collectors across America received their shiny proof sets in the mail. At first, everything looked normal, beautiful mirror-like coins, perfect detail, flawless surfaces, but one sharp-eyed collector noticed something strange. On the dime, the tiny S mint mark was missing, gone, completely absent. At first, people thought it was a trick of the light, then another collector reported the same discovery, soon another, and another. The news began spreading quietly through coin collecting circles. A proof dime from 1990 that had no mint mark at all. This wasn't supposed to exist. The San Francisco Mint always marked its proof coins, yet here was proof that a small number escaped without it. The mistake instantly transformed an ordinary 10-cent coin into one of the most fascinating modern mint errors in American history. Collectors scrambled to check their proof sets, people pulled out magnifying glasses, forums buzzed with excitement, and slowly, the truth became clear: only a tiny number of these mysterious dimes had been released. Some estimates suggested only a few dozen existed. Imagine that, out of billions of dimes produced over the years, only a microscopic handful carried this accidental secret. Scarcity like that sends collectors into a frenzy. Auction houses started tracking sales, prices climbed, then climbed again, then exploded, because when collectors realize a coin is both rare and accidental, the value can skyrocket beyond imagination. But here's where the story gets even more incredible. One of these dimes, graded in nearly perfect condition, stunned the numismatic world when its estimated value approached $1.6 million. A dime, 10 cents, turning into nearly $2 million. And here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night: some of those proof sets from 1990 are still unopened, still sitting in drawers, still tucked away in safety deposit boxes, still forgotten in old collections, which means the next discovery could happen anywhere, at any moment. So the question becomes very simple. Let's slow down and look carefully. First, check the date. The coin must say 1990. If the date is anything else, it isn't the legendary coin collectors are searching for. Second, examine the coin's surface. True proof coins have a very distinctive appearance. The background fields are mirror-like, almost like black glass. The raised design looks frosted, creating a strong contrast that if your coin looks like a normal circulation dime with dull surfaces, it's probably not a proof coin. But if it Shines like a mirror. Keep looking. Now comes the critical detail. Look just above the date on the front of the coin. On proof dimes from San Francisco, there should be a small letter S. This tiny mark sits to the left of Roosevelt's neck, just above the year, but on the rare error coin, that S is missing, completely missing. The space where the mint mark should be is blank, empty. That empty spot is the difference between pocket change and a collector's dream, but before excitement takes over, there's one more thing to understand. Condition matters. A lot. Coins that are scratched, worn, or damaged lose significant value. The legendary examples that reach extraordinary prices are usually graded by professional services like the Professional Coin Grading Service or the Numismatic Guarantee Company. These experts examine the coin under powerful magnification, authenticate it, and assign a grade that tells collectors how perfect the coin is. The closer a coin is to flawless, the higher the price collectors are willing to pay. That's why some of these rare dimes sell for tens of thousands, others for hundreds of thousands, and in extraordinary cases, the estimated value can approach $1 million. Let that sink in for a moment. A coin so small it can disappear between your fingers, a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, could potentially change someone's life forever. This is why coin collectors never stop searching, because history has proven again and again that incredible treasures can hide in the most ordinary places. A coin jar on the kitchen counter. A box in the attic. A forgotten envelope from decades ago, even a dusty proof set purchased years earlier and never opened. Every collector has the same thought when they look at their coins, and that is exactly how some of the most famous coin discoveries in history have happened, not in museums, not in vaults, but in living rooms, at kitchen tables, under the soft glow of a desk lamp. A collector tilts a coin, looks closer, notices something strange, and suddenly realizes they are holding something the world didn't know existed. The 1990 proof dime without the S mint mark carries that same thrilling possibility, because even today, decades later, collectors still search for it. They search estate sales, they search coin shows, they search old proof sets from the early 1990s. Because somewhere out there, another one could still be hiding, unnoticed, unrecognized, waiting, and the person who finds it might just be someone exactly like you, someone curious, someone patient, someone willing to look closely at the details others ignore. So tonight, before you ignore that old coin collection, before you walk past that jar of change, before you close the drawer where those old proof sets sit, take a moment, open it, look carefully, check the date, study the mint mark. Because history has shown that the difference between 10 cents and a fortune can be smaller than a grain of rice, and if that tiny S mint mark is missing, you may be holding one of the rarest modern coins ever discovered. A coin that collectors would chase across the country. A coin auction houses would fight to sell. A coin whose value could climb toward $1 million. So take another look at your coins tonight, slowly, carefully.